With 12 million tourists and 4 billion online viewers, you would naturally expect that hosting Olympics must be a great opportunity to make money, right? Well, I have some better news for you.
So should Boston host the 2024 Olympic Games?
Will hosting the Games have been worth it?
It was worth it or not?
Though prestigious, does this create permanent economic benefits for a country?
So let's talk about whether it's worth it.
That it does not promote economic development in the country, and more often than not, it creates fiscal losses.
Rio state authorities declared a state of emergency, a financial calamity.
Hey everyone, welcome to Business as Unusual, the channel where we dive into the world of everything that's unusual. In this video, we will see how the Olympics started, what is the distribution of Olympics budget, and how much of the budget is actually a waste. Why are countries afraid to host the Olympics anymore? And most important, why did the PM of India have this in mind?
भारत अपनी धरती पर ओलंपिक्स का आयोजन करने के लिए बहुत उत्साहित है.
Should India really host the Olympics? Are all your influences correct about the Olympics? Well, not exactly. Let me explain.
I don't believe that. I think that the growth and the improvement of Beijing will continue after the
Olympics. Finance Minister George Osborne said the figures vindicated the government's economic policies.
We're seeing the immediate benefits of the game on the French economy. According to the latest data from S&P Global, August services activity in Paris expanded at the fastest pace in over 2 years.
The city is left with a forest of new skyscrapers, new office buildings, and new hotels. Along with a new and improved airport and public transportation system, the city is ready for new business.
But if you're deciding to host the Olympics because you want a boost to public morale, if you want a great party, there is no other sporting event like we just heard on the planet.
But before we jump to any conclusions, let's first understand from the basics. Imagine this. Back in the day, people didn't have fancy media coverage or the ease of travel that we enjoy today. So they came up with a clever idea. Every 4 years, a different country would host the event and cover all the costs. Think of it like having a group of 5 friends who take turn hosting dinner and drinks at each other's place every weekend. This way, no one person gets overwhelmed and everyone gets a chance to show off their skills and specialities. But, imagine this. If you're having guests over after a long time, you're not just going to leave the place as it is, right? You would probably clean up, redecorate a bit, and bring out those fancy cutlery that your mom insists are only for those special occasions. You want to make a good impression, right? After all, it's a rare opportunity to show that you got it all together and everything is going great. Well, hosting the Olympics has been something similar. While Olympics has always been about the thrill of the competition, they've also been about much more. Political power play, national pride, and global image building. It all started with the 1936 Berlin Olympics, infamously known as Nazi Games. Adolf Hitler used this event to project Nazi Germany as a powerful, resurgent nation despite the world's skepticism after World War I. The grand stadium and lavish ceremonies weren't just for show, they were a tool of propaganda with every sport almost playing a second fiddle. Then in 1964, Tokyo hosted the Games, and for Japan, it was about showcasing a dramatic comeback. From the ruins of World War II, Japan emerged as a technological and industrial leader, with the game serving as a platform to display its rebirth through cutting-edge infrastructure and high-speed trains. Now you'd naturally think more countries would be eager to host such prestigious event, but the opposite is happening. Let's look at the numbers. Between 1992 and 2008, 5 cities bid for the game each year. By 2012, the number jumped to 9, but by 2024, only 5 cities initially expressed their interest: Paris, Los Angeles, Budapest, Rome, and Hamburg. What happened next? 3 of these cities, Hamburg, Rome, and Budapest, dropped out. Hamburg's public referendum showed voters' concerns over the high costs and financial risks. Rome's newly elected mayor in 2016 decided the city couldn't afford the financial burden. In Budapest, public opposition grew so strong that the city had to withdraw its bid in 2017. This left Paris and Los Angeles in the running. To avoid another expensive and contentious bidding process, the IOC made an unprecedented move in 2017. They awarded 2024 games to Paris and 2028 games to Los Angeles in one decision. This move acknowledged the reality that hosting the Olympics has become increasingly challenging, with economic uncertainties, political changes, and soaring costs making it a daunting prospect for many cities. And when a city wins the bid to host the Olympics, it's usually 7 to 10 years before the games actually take place. A lot can change in that time. Economies can collapse, political landscape can shift, inflation can spike, the cost of construction materials can rise. While bidding for the Olympics, the IOC requires countries to host in the state-of-the-art stadiums an Olympic village for the athletes, security, and citywide infrastructure for transport and tourism. There are also operational expenses to run the event. Critics argue that this spending is wasteful and a financial burden, but that's not entirely true. While operational costs and security offers no direct returns, the real concern is with the white elephants.
The stadiums are never used again. Monuments, bleachers, food courts, and more all are left to rot and rust. Decaying buildings in the Olympic Village have been abandoned for years. Just how unused and run down the facility has become. Vandalism is prevalent all over this Olympic building.
These are the stadiums and Olympic villages built for the event but left unused afterwards, becoming liabilities due to high maintenance costs without generating enough revenue to justify its investment. Now take a look at this table. The third column in yellow shows the planned budget and the fourth column shows the actual budget. Countries like Greece, the UK and Brazil saw their cost increase by 3x, while China and Japan saw theirs double. If you look at the next four columns, you'll see the spending on the white elephants, unused stadiums and Olympic villages, along with operational and security costs. They had little to no returns. However, this accounts for less than 50% of the actual budget. Now, notice the green text in the following columns. These countries invested heavily in city infrastructure like roads, bridges, metros, airport and tourist attraction. While these don't directly impact the Olympics, they offer tangible long-term benefits to the city's economy. And here's why. Better infrastructure means improved commuting, boosting workforce productivity and easing logistics for businesses. Upgraded airport attracts more tourists, while enhanced city attractions increase local spending. Athens, for example, restored historical sites and improved public health services. Beijing spent heavily on reducing air pollution. Rio cleaned up polluted areas for water events. So as this table shows, over 50% of the investment went towards long-term city development. Not a complete waste of money, right? I agree that the money spent on the Olympic Stadium and villages often don't justify itself, and it's a fair question everyone needs to be asking. But who's really responsible? The Olympic Committee or your governing leaders? When it's time to take the credit, leaders show up everywhere. But when it's time to take responsibility for the white elephants, they play the blame game. The mass media often fails to hold leaders accountable for not capitalizing on the real estate that was left behind by the Olympics. Instead, they focus on just two examples, Athens in 2004 and Rio in 2016, where the countries nearly went bankrupt. But Olympics was not completely responsible for their bankruptcy. Let me explain. After 9/11 attack, Athens invested heavily in security, and the 2008 financial crisis was a major cause for their economic downfall. Rio faced a political instability and corruption, almost leading to a civil war. Yet, the media prefers to blame hosting the Olympics because this narrative sells better than holding the governments accountable. So who actually makes money from the Olympics? It all starts with the local bid committee, the people who actually make money from the Olympics. This is a group of influential business leaders, real estate developers, construction firms, investment bankers, large consulting firms, and sports executives. These are the folks who stand to make a lot of money if the city wins the bid. Think of them as the architects of Olympic dream, but with big financial stake in making that dream a reality. Now let's talk about who actually pays for the Olympics. The answer, more often than not, are the taxpayers. You. Hosting the Olympics requires massive public spending. Government pours billions into building new sports venues, upgrading infrastructure, and beefing up security. And how do they pay for it? By issuing bonds, which means borrowing money that has to be paid by interest. And guess where that money comes from? Higher taxes or cuts in public services. So, should India host the Olympics in the future? Let's look at two key Olympics from the past to understand the dynamics. First, the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics in the USA, the only Olympics in the history to be profitable. The main reason? 90% of the budget came from private funding, with only 10% from public sources. After the tragic terrorist attack in the 1972 Munich Olympics, when 11 Israeli athletes were killed, many cities were reluctant to host the Olympics. Los Angeles stepped in at the last moment and negotiated favorable terms with the IOC, allowing them to use pre-existing venues, drastically reducing their costs. Private investors, having poured in so much capital, they didn't leave it to the government to capitalize on the post-Olympic real estate, ensuring that venues were used efficiently afterwards. Second, the 2000 Sydney Olympics was another financial success, thanks to careful planning, budget management, and strong public-private partnership. The Sydney Organizing Committee secured significant private investments, particularly from sponsorship and broadcasting rights. They also made efficient use of public funds and existing infrastructure. New constructions like Olympic Park were designed with post-games in mind, reducing long-term maintenance costs. So what can India take away from these examples? We can absolutely apply the same principle, focus on attracting private investments, because we have seen business like Oyo and Jio, which have literally turned loss-making real estate liability into a high-value business, and most important, involve the community at every step. By doing this, we can not only host an unforgettable Olympics, but also create a legacy that will benefit generations to come. Let's show the world what India is capable of.